Looking at this vast stretch of the African savanna, you immediately see the problem. There is virtually nowhere to hide. The heat radiating off the soil can push well past 100 degrees Fahrenheit, creating an entirely unforgiving environment for new life. And that brings us to the immediate biological challenge pictured here. Notice the stark contrast between the massive, sturdy legs of the adult and the tiny, unsteady calf next to her. In its first hours of life, a newborn elephant is fighting basic gravity, struggling just to coordinate its own limbs. An isolated, uncoordinated animal weighing around 250 pounds is an extremely vulnerable target for the lion prides and hyena clans that patrol these grasses. Statistically, a solitary infant has almost zero chance of surviving its first night. This schematic maps out how the herd neutralizes that threat. When scattered predators, these red data points, move toward the vulnerable calf, the adults do not flee. Instead, they dynamically reorganize, closing ranks to form an impenetrable 360-degree wall, completely blocking the predator's paths. Survival at this stage is a matter of rapid integration into this collective defense network. The calf's life depends on its place within the geometry of the herd. Once past those initial days, the calf enters a lengthy juvenile phase. While it packs on about 2 pounds of body weight every single day, the real heavy lifting is happening in its brain, which is undergoing a massive phase of neurological mapping. Watch this slow-motion footage of a calf trying to grasp a branch, and you can see why this mapping takes years. The trunk is an incredibly complex biological tool containing upwards of 40,000 individual muscles. Mastering it requires intense concentration and endless trial and error. This learning extends to how they interact. When you see young elephants splashing water or wrestling in the mud, you're watching an evolutionary training ground. This physical play is a necessary mechanism for establishing the complex social hierarchies and cooperative bonds they will rely on as adults. But the most crucial data they acquire is geographic, because the savanna's resources constantly shift. Calves must closely observe their elders to memorize ancient, invisible migration corridors that stretch for hundreds of miles. They are essentially downloading specific, vital coordinates, like the exact locations of hidden seasonal waterholes, etching geographic data into memory through the physical repetition of walking the routes year after year. An elephant's youth is an intensive, mandatory education. Without this rigorous transfer of data, they wouldn't have the neurological toolkit to outlast environmental collapses. This image of a dead, fallen tree resting on a completely parched riverbed shows exactly what that environmental collapse looks like. When the severe dry season arrives, the savanna undergoes a drastic geographic transformation, stripping away the surface water. And as you can see from the smoke sweeping across the distant brush here, the disappearance of vegetation brings an active, moving threat. Resource scarcity compounds rapidly as wildfires ignite across the dry plains, forcing the animals to move. Under this extreme ecological pressure, the herd must execute those memorized survival routes. Their lives now depend entirely on the oldest matriarch's cognitive map to navigate the expanding wasteland and locate the next viable water source. The brutal environment acts as a strict evolutionary filter. Only the herds with the strongest communal memory and the discipline to follow their leadership can survive these intense seasonal cycles. As the elephant reaches full adulthood, its body undergoes a massive volumetric expansion. A mature adult can weigh up to 6 tons transforming into an engine of peak kinetic power capable of uprooting entire trees. You can see the biological markers of this maturity in this close-up of the tusks. Notice the heavy texturing and worn tips on the ivory. These are essential environmental tools used daily to strip bark, dig deep for groundwater, and manipulate heavy debris. At this stage, the social dynamic inverts. The individual transitions from being a protected asset in the center of the herd into a keystone protector on the perimeter, directly responsible for the new generation. To coordinate the herd over vast distances, the adult commands a complex communication network. They use tactile cues and produce deep, infrasonic rumbles. Sounds so low in frequency, they travel directly through the ground and are felt by the sensitive feet of other elephants miles away. This physical power and advanced communication now serve a specific purpose. The adult must leverage its years of memorized data to guide the younger generation through these same seasonal trials. Decades of extreme environmental exposure eventually take their physical toll. In this image, you can see the heavy, sagging weight of an aged frame as the elephant reaches the end of its metabolic lifespan. Driven by the behavioral instinct of cellular senescence, the elderly elephant naturally begins to slow down. To conserve its failing energy, it will quietly separate from the fast-moving herd. Finding a quiet spot, much like the shade beneath this solitary acacia tree standing in the vast emptiness, the animal stops walking. It is a peaceful, purely biological conclusion as the internal systems finally power down. The ecological response is immediate. The massive, hoarded nutrient reserves contained within the elephant's body are rapidly recycled directly back into the depleted soil, feeding insects, scavengers, and the surrounding flora. While the physical remains enrich the soil for the next season's growth, the decades of memory survive in the calves, who will continue to follow the ancient trails that the elder once walked. Thank you for watching. See you next video.